Hello and welcome, it's Chris from Christopher Holt Training and welcome to this week's tutorial. And our topic is all about spine health activities that can help reduce lower back pain. When most people think about lower back pain and exercises for it, they tend to go straight for the core exercises. Now that's great, so planks, side planks, bridges, bird dogs, those exercises are great for helping that. But what you're doing is you may only be using those for 15 minutes a day if you're doing it twice a day, or you may be just doing an hour's workout a day, and you've got all this other time that you can use to help reduce your lower back pain. So we're going to be looking at that other 23 hours or potential 23 hours, what you could be doing to improve your spine health. Why are these spine health activities so important to help reduce lower back pain? Well, at a very fundamental level, lower back pain comes from small movement errors. And if we can clean up these movement errors, we can start to reduce the stress on the spine. Because as we're moving throughout the day, lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling, getting up out of seats, so on and so forth, all these little small movement errors are just going to add little bits of stress to the spine. And these little bits of stress are going to start to add up through the day. So if we can, as I mentioned, clean those up, we can start reducing the stress that's on the spine and therefore start reducing the pain that you experience in your lower back. So in this short workshop, we're going to be focusing on how can we minimize these movement areas. Well, there are a lot of different things or a lot of different movements that we can do, and there are different things that we can be doing within them. But what we're going to focus on is the most fundamental piece, which is to move from the hips or move from the ball and socket joints and maintain the proper posture of the lumbar spine. So we're going to be using three different movements or three different positions. We're going to look at lifting, we're going to look at getting up, and we're going to look at rotating. So if we start with lifting first, I'm just going to grab one of these kettlebells here. Now, we're lifting things all through the day. We're picking things up, we're bending forward to put things down, whatever it might be. We're also carrying in between that. So we could talk about a lot of different things. But we're just going to focus on the lifting and the bending. So the lifting and the putting down of a weight, be it a shopping bag, a box, any type of thing that you might be carrying. So what we would do is we really want to focus on the hip hinge. So you can just start by putting hands on your thighs and just pushing forward. But all the time you're maintaining that position of the spine. So we're from here into these positions. So it's just that short movement where my hand goes from the top of my thigh all the way down to my knee. So I'm just focusing on that for now. So all I do is I just put my hand on my back so I can feel if there's any movement from my lumbar spine, because I want to avoid that and I want to avoid that. I just want to maintain standing up, holding the proper posture, coming forward and keeping the position. Now, what I'm going to focus on is I'm going to focus on the hips to start with, coming forward. So now I'm still in that position. Now, I'm still a little bit away. So what I now want to focus on is just a short bend of the knees, and then I can straighten my knees and then lift at the hips. So that's me lifting a weight from the floor, moving from the hips and maintaining proper posture of the spine. Putting it down is just the exact same, but in reverse. I keep the weight close to me. I go down, maintain the proper posture. At the bottom, I just do a little bend of the knees and I pop it down. So I'm focusing all the movement from the big, strong hip muscles and maintaining posture here, which challenges the abdominal wall, the obliques, the QL, the lats, all to work properly. If we then move on to getting up, we could sit to stand. So from this position to sit down, it's that hip hinge. I go down, put my bum over the seat, and then I bend the knees and come back down. To get myself up, I don't just fling myself up, which is what a lot of people do. They sort of bend their back, and then they sort of use that momentum to bring themselves up, and then they go off and do what they need to do. What we want to be able to do, again, hold this position. We still use the same principle of momentum, but what we do is we hinge at the hip. We hold this position of the body, so exactly the same as the hip hinge. We hold that position. Feet are underneath our knee, so you can see my knee is just over the mid part of the foot. So I lean forward and then I come up. So I'm using my hips back and then I just sit. I do what I need to do. When I get up, I get into position, forward and up, without putting any extra stress on my spine. The final one is rotating. Now what we want to focus on here is rotating again from the hips. Now this could be picking a box up off the floor or off a seat or wherever it might be, and then putting it up onto a shelf. Now as I've mentioned, we'll use the hip hinge. So we'll come forward, we'll lift. When we turn, what we're looking to do is turn again from the hip. I've not twisted my spine from there. I've picked it up, I've brought it into the body, I've taken a step, and I've turned. All the time I've kept a proper position of the spine. Then what I'm able to do is pop it up onto the shelf. Now you may be in a position where you can pick something up, you can turn around and go on and pop the weight up. But you might find yourself constricted into a position. So we come here, I've now got a wider stance, but I'm still hinging at the hip. I'm up, I'm turning, and it's up on the shelf. So all the way through that, I've got position of the spine, I pick the weight up, I turn, position of the spine still, I've moved and done all my rotation from the hip, and then I've put the weight up on the shelf where it needs to go. Now again, there are 101 different types of movement out there. We've just focused on the lifting, the getting up, and the rotating. Now we could do one for getting up off the floor, but that might be for another tutorial. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's given you a better idea of how to keep your spine healthy. So now it's down to you to start using that information and thinking about how can I apply moving from the hips and maintaining that proper posture from the spine. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Chris Training. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.